Is your team ready to soar to new heights? At CTL Africa Leadership, we specialize in transforming potential into performance. Whether it's mastering winning with people, enhancing emotional intelligence, decoding human behavior, or strengthening team leadership, we've got you covered. Dive into personal leadership and elevate your corporate governance standards. Our tailor-made programs are designed to unlock your team's full potential. Don't settle for ordinary. Be extraordinary. Book a discovery call with CTL Africa today, and let's design a development program that transforms your team. Visit our website www.ctlafricaleadership.com.
Hello. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Leadership Platform. My name is Samuel Ayum, and I'm excited to be with you this evening. The whole CTL Africa leadership team is here at the background to serve you the best dinner you can think of. And so get ready for an amazing evening. Joy is here. The rest of the team are here. Sarah is here. And we want to invite all of you to join. Please, if you have connected either from YouTube or Facebook, please introduce yourself. Like our Facebook pages and subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you can receive prompts when this program starts every time. Please share the link with all your friends, your colleagues, share with your boss, share with your team members, your church members, your family. This particular session is going to be useful to everybody. If you really want to grow as a person, as a leader, this session is for you. So please go ahead. Let's know where you are coming from. Introduce yourself so that we would announce you to the whole wide world. We know that many of you connect and you don't show or introduce yourself or make any comment. So we appreciate that, but we prefer that you tell us where you are connecting from so that other people on the call would know you are here. So go ahead and let's know where you are coming from. Right? Okay. I have Dominic Tibiru. Hi, Dominic. You are welcome to the Leadership Platform. Where are you joining from? Okido. Anybody else introducing yourself? Just tell us your name and where you are connecting from, and that will be enough. All right. So Dominic is here, and I'm sure so many other people are here. Sarah Jessiapia is here, joining from Geneva. We appreciate your support, Sarah Jessiapia. All right. So let's quickly invite our speaker for this evening. And our speaker for this evening is Catherine Engmann. Catherine is no stranger to this platform. So I'll just bring Catherine on board and we'll have a quick chat. Hey, my good friend, Catherine, how are you? You're looking fabulous, like they say. Wonderful. Thank you, Catherine. You have been a great supporter of this project. You are John Maxwell coach. You are a governance expert. You support boards. but I also know that you, like they say, you're a personal growth junkie. Now, what does that mean? Share a bit of it, because I know there's so many programs that you are involved. You are a coach. And you're doing so many things. And guys, this is the reason we brought Catherine for this subject, because if you want somebody to speak about continuous learning, I don't think we can get a better person. So give us a view of some of the things that you have been involved, paid for. It's not like they give it to you for free. Oh, paid for, and you are going through, and which has made you who you are now.
Oh, Sam, I will say that, we say in our culture, it takes a village, right? It's taking a global village to get me to where I am in my journey today.
Good.
And gosh, when we say I'm a personal growth junkie, I think it was actually Coach Doreen, right, who started that term, because all my money goes into investing in my personal growth. So what have I done? I have to work backwards because it's been so long now. So currently I'm in a program called Strategic Coach, which is for helping entrepreneurs grow, because they recognize that unless you grow the entrepreneur, you can't grow the business. And I've done that for 4 years now. I've been in it as a participant.
Good.
I've also been in the Jack Canfield. I went through an intense period with them as well. And I'm actually one of the trainers now. I have done mastermind retreats overseas with entrepreneurs, done the John Maxwell team. I've been in culture transformation programs. I have a personal coach. I've had a coach for 10 years now. And oh gosh, it just goes on and on and on. I'm actually in a team coaching certification at the moment. I'm always in something, because every year I'm very, very intentional. Every year I look at something to do.
That's really interesting. But what is the motivation? You said all your money goes into, and you do all those things. What is the motivation?
Sam, you know what? When I started growing, I became such a different person. I started evolving into someone that I liked more, somebody that was much happier, and someone that loved people.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. It makes me I feel so much happier and more fulfilled in a way that you can handle the world so much better. It builds resilience. I think that's what it is, because it really grows you. Your self-esteem improves, and self-esteem is different from confidence, right? So
What's the difference?
you see, I think that self-esteem is where it's from the inside out. You don't need outside or external factors to value or to validate you. Because, so for example, some people can walk into a room, they're very, very confident, and then someone may say something to them, I will trigger them, and then suddenly that person becomes their enemy, and it sends them in a downward spiral. So they have confidence, but not esteem. So esteem is like, okay, you can, whatever it is that you say to me, it just kind of rolls off, because I now know I'm built from the inside out, and I know that I'm not perfect, Sam. I've got so many faults. And even if you mention them, it's okay, because it is who I am. And I think
Is it not? I mean, it's normal. It's human. Like they say, to err is human. It's normal. And that is the fact that you recognize that you have fault is what is also making you intentional to build on it. So if you did not do all these personal growth things, your fault will probably have been much more explosive. All right.
Well,
So,
Sam, let me tell
that's
you a
my
secret.
question for you. Yes, go ahead.
When I started on Journey of Personal Growth, that's when I realized that I needed to take responsibility for everything, that things were not happening to me. They were happening because of me, or they were happening for me. And once I realized that with every situation, to ask yourself, okay, which part of me was responsible for this? It changes things, because it really empowers you, and you take ownership, and you realize, yes, because it's my responsibility, and that changes things. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's a very, very, very important point, that you take responsibility for it, and you talk about the difference between what is happening to you, which is the kind of a victim mentality, and
Yeah.
what is happening because of you, which is you take charge and you lead your life and you grow. Thank you so much for that. So guys, you know why we brought this lady here, and you don't want to go anywhere. Call your friends, and we're going to learn how to grow continuously. You see, she's already given us all the clues about her life, and she's going to probably tell us a bit more as she goes along, uh, sharing with us. So Catherine, uh,
Yes.
the platform is yours. Take us away.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you for having me here. Okay. And today I'm here to talk to you about building a culture of continuous learning and development. Today I'm going to go through why it's important to learn continuously, the components of a learning culture, the strategies for building one, and measuring impact and success. And here's what I'd like to do. I'm going to share my story, because I'm going to weave all of this through my story. And before we start, I'd like to hear from you. It's a quick icebreaker. On a scale of 1 to 10, just let me know in the chat how important you think building a culture of learning and development is. On a scale of 1 to 10, how important do you think it is? With 10 being super duper, absolutely, it must be done, versus 1 is blah. And what makes it important? And I'd love to hear your responses in the chat. I can't see the chat right now, and I'm sure at the end, I will be told what the responses are. Are you ready? It was the 14th of March, 2014, almost 2 years to the day that I had actually set up my business. And I remember I was crouched into a ball in my office in Accra, 6:30 a.m. in the morning, and there was a power cut. The generator wasn't working. Those of you who live in West Africa can relate to this. You see, investors from a company listed on London Stock Exchange were here in Accra, waiting for me to deliver some documents to them for signature. They just bought a business in Ghana, and they needed to sign these documents so that their colleagues in London could release information to the London Stock Exchange. And these documents had to be at the destination by 7 a.m. before the financial markets started trading. The stakes were high, and so were my emotions. Here I was, crouched down on my office floor, hysterical with tears, feeling inadequate because I couldn't print the documents that the investors needed to sign. It had been months that I hadn't been sleeping. I was anxious, and I couldn't take it anymore. And this wasn't a good look for the badass entrepreneur that I portrayed myself as. And in that moment, I asked myself, how did I get here? What's wrong with me? Why am I so inadequate? Why can't I do anything right? How many of you can relate to that? The voices that were going around in my head were making a mockery of me, because at the time, I had already built up a sought-after consulting business. I had 6.5 employees working for me, and yet I was literally working 20 hours a day, 6 days a week. I was exhausted, I was burned out, and I was ready to throw in the towel. More voices in my head. Why would my employees do what it is they ought to do? Why am I always working so hard? Why will my employees not step up? Don't they use their initiative? Why am I always carrying them? And every entrepreneur here can also relate to this. See, deep down, I knew that I was asking the wrong questions, but trust me, I was enjoying my pity party. We all get into moments like that where there's a little pity party going on, right? Yeah, I know. Don't worry. A few days later, I recounted this drama to a friend who had just certified as a coach, and he was stoic about it. He wasn't buying into my drama at all. In fact, it didn't move him. He showed no emotion. And a few moments after, he said to me the words that I had dreaded hearing, which was, Catherine, you need to change. It's not your staff that need to change. It's you that needs to change. You know what? I felt a huge stab in my chest. And the feelings of inadequacy returned. I mean, come on. I was perfect. I thought I was perfect. What do you mean I have to change? I asked him. What good is that going to do? And his wise response was, when you change, your staff will change. But how many of you will get advice from somebody and think, yeah, right, and not implement it, right? I mean, of course, it happens to me, it happens to you, it happens to all of us. So I ignored my friend's advice. And also, the truth be told, I had no idea how to change myself. After all, I was a Christian. Be ye renewed by the transforming of your mind. Yeah. I thought, and it's the Bible that will transform my mind. So, of course, what else do I need? And in those days, I'm talking 10 years ago, social media was not prolific. In fact, I think I was actually still using a BlackBerry in those days. Who remembers BlackBerries now? So I continued working 20 hours a day in my business and living a life which I wasn't present for anything. I was constantly in a frenzy of activity. For example, you'd be talking to me and I'm thinking about something else. I'm not paying attention. And I was just on this hamster wheel to nowhere. I was truly unfulfilled. And then I remembered my friend's words, Catherine, you've got to change. You've got to change, Catherine. And that reminded me of a quote that I heard a while ago, which was, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So I ate humble pie and I called my friend whose name is Coach Kobe. Shout out to Coach Kobe, everyone. Thank him for me. And I said to him, Kobe, I'm ready to change. What shall I do? So he agreed to give me some complimentary coaching sessions. And what I noticed after those coaching sessions was that I walked away from each one feeling more expanded, more empowered, and discovering aspects of myself that had been holding me back from creating the progress I was expecting. It was liberating. You see, I've always been ambitious, but I thought that success meant that it was all about growing my professional skills, climbing up the ladder, growing my business. It was all about metrics. And the last thing on my mind actually was about growing myself, because again, I'm a Christian. What more do I need than reading the Bible and renewing my mind? So at the time, I thought that growing was all about climbing up the ladder, being on the next rung on the ladder. And I hadn't realized that I was actually being goal-oriented and not growth-oriented, and being motivated by external rewards, which were not sustainable. So what else did I do? I delved into the world of personal growth and leadership. I started reading personal development books, John Maxwell books. I read also, oh gosh, I can't tell you how many books. As you can see from behind me, I now absolutely love reading. I used to love reading before, but I would read fiction. And now I love leadership books, personal development books. And I started working with coaches and attending personal growth workshops, always going on some sort of retreat or the other. So I was growing and growing, but I was leaving my staff behind, so I was I was going fast, but everyone is still behind me because I hadn't considered them in my growth journey. I don't know whether you've thought that, but I expected them to just magically grow. And I'd come back from events or share with them what I was reading in the most superior way. And rather than connecting with them, I was disconnecting them because they started seeing me to be a judgmental know-it-all. Yeah, me, a judgmental know-it-all. Yep, some of you might not believe that now. I still was facing some challenges. My staff turnover was high. And there was a really difficult day where there was a bust-up in the office and two of my staff were fighting with each other. And I had to get Coach Kobe in to intervene because this was way beyond what I could handle. And his feedback, again, broke my heart that I was still the problem. And my staff in my business were complaining about me. Can you imagine? And suffering from high turnover was holding me back because the company couldn't grow the way I wanted to. Because when people leave, you're having now to find the time to hire, onboard, train new people, which took a lot of my time and meant that the organization wasn't growing. And to become effective in the kind of business that I run, it takes about 2 years training, eh? So it was really, really starting to hurt me. So after another personal development retreat, I realized that I had to change more things. It's like it never ends. So what did I do? You see, I'd been on some personal development retreats and they didn't teach me how to create a learning environment. But because of what I had been applying and learning, I created my own learning environment. And this is what I did. I sat down with my staff, first of all, to find out about their vision and goals. I was very task-oriented. And a lot of us entrepreneurs and leaders, when we have staff, it's more about what we can get out of them. Let's extract as much as we can out of them. They've got to give. What are we giving to them? What do we really know about them? So I sat down with my staff to find out really about their vision and their goals, and they didn't really have much. So I actually encouraged them. I took them through some visualization exercises to come up with a vision, and we did this for both their personal lives and for their profession. You know what? We even made, I went into an art shop, bought all these art tools, and we made vision boards together. And you know what? It really ticked me off when I wasn't even on their vision board. The company wasn't on their vision board. And I had to hold myself from expressing that sadness. But that's when I realized I had grown because, yes, it ticked me off, but I let it wash over me. You see, once I got clear on what their vision and their goals were for their profession, I was able to tie in how working with me would align with their future goals and would help them get there. Not so much as I'm going to help you set up a business in 10 years, but how all the skills they were learning will help them in the future. And when they could tie the two to see that, yes, this work is a stepping stone, it's going to allow me to achieve this in the future, they were more committed in their work. And I also gave them the opportunity to develop the skills now that they would actually need in their future. So if I knew, for example, that somebody wanted to own their own business, I would let them help and really understand things about record keeping and how to build the foundations in the business. And then this was my favorite thing. I introduced Learning Fridays, where we would mastermind around John Maxwell leadership books and other books such as The Man Thinketh, The Power of Positive Thinking, Think Big, I think that's what it was called, Think and Grow Rich. And we would share practical applications and share the lessons in the book. And in fact, Fridays was Learning Friday. We'd have learning from 9 till 12. I'd get them lunch, and then everyone was free to go home. And that was actually my favorite day of the week. So as well as that, I also ensured that at each staff meeting, we would also discuss the company's values, because that's also important, and what behaviors support those values. And then we also held each other accountable for living the values. So for example, if somebody wasn't doing work to a high standard, my company's name at the time was Platinum, I'd say, hey, in fact, I wouldn't even say it. Somebody else would rather say, hey, that's not the Platinum way. And I changed my leadership style. So rather than being a telling leader, I started asking more questions. So for example, if an employee asked me for help on something, rather than diving in, we leaders and entrepreneurs, we just dive in and we solve the problem, right? I have to hold myself and ask in a gentle way, what have you tried? Or I'd probably ask, what do you think you should do? And if they couldn't come up with the right solution, I would ask them, okay, or let me backtrack. If they would come up with a solution that I knew was going to head into trouble, I would ask, okay, have you considered what might go wrong if you did it that way? Or what impact will it have on blah, 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 XYZ, if you do it that way? So I started, unbeknownst to me, before it became trendy, using a coaching style of leadership rather than a telling directional style of leadership. And my favorite thing before then was issuing query letters. If anybody made a mistake, for example, even if they were late for work, when people got things wrong on purpose, which I thought was on purpose, I would issue query letters. The other day, I found in my file some query letters I'd been sending my staff. I was like, oh my gosh, Catherine, you've come a long way. So rather than berating people for failures or mistakes, I'd ask them questions such as, what did you learn? What will you do differently next time? How will that give you a different result? And what will stop you from doing things differently next time? Because sometimes people know what to do, but they don't do it. So what's going to stop you from actually doing the right thing? And what this does is that it offers the staff more learning opportunities, because I can't remember who said it. Someone said a quote there are 3 ways which we learn, and the most noble of them all is reflection. And I'm sure Sam will find the quote and share with us somewhere in the chat or at the end of this session. Yeah, by 3 ways in which we learn, and reflection is the most noble. And so when people learn by reflection, then it actually expands them, and the learning is more sustainable, and they take ownership of the learning. One of the things that I also did was that in our weekly team meetings, getting everybody to start what is grateful for really calms the atmosphere in the room and gets people to be more open. And then I'll also challenge people. Everyone had to come up every week with something that they did well, something that they succeeded in, and something that didn't go well. And for each of these, they would have to share what was it that made it go well, and what they learned, and what they would do differently. Or if it really did go well, it's okay, how would they even leverage on that? Okay, so everybody, so you bring a failure and a success. why it went well, what they did to make it go well, and what they learned from that. And I mean, some of the things are, for example, things like missing client deadlines, to sending out work that is inferior. Well, what did you learn? What are you going to do differently? And I also encourage them to use the 5 whys. So why did this happen? Why did this? Why? Why? So for example, I didn't send work out on time. Why? Because I was waiting for Madame to check their work. Why was I waiting for Madame to check their work? Well, Madame was busy. But why was Madame busy? Because X, Y. So going through the 5 whys until you get to the point where you realize that you could have done something better in order to avoid that error. And we had to share all of this publicly. So that was also important because then everybody else in the group, in the team, is learning from the lessons. And then we're also cataloging the lessons. And some of the lessons would actually be reflected in our policy manuals because we'd learn in our standard operating procedures, we'd include some of these lessons that we had learned. So we were constantly changing things. And that's what innovation is about, right? Innovation doesn't have to be anything huge or grand. It's about changing the way that you do things for the better. Another one of my favorite things that I also did was introducing an end of day reflection exercise. And that was something that would go like, what did I do well today? What I could have done better? So 3 columns. What did I do well? What could I have done better? What I will do tomorrow instead is. So for example, maybe what I could have done better was deliver on some deadlines. What I will do tomorrow is to be more intentional. So they're constantly having to think. And so we'd make sure that we go through our end of day reflection exercise and they had to report back that evening that they had completed the end of day reflection exercise and share with me the next day. Because if you don't hold people accountable, trust me, they won't do it. I did also introduce learning objectives for every single employee, which were also both skills-based as well as personal leadership. So for example, making sure that things like technology skills are updated and they would get the KPIs, they'd be embedded into their KPIs, and also it fed into their reward conversation at the end of the year. So within 18 months, things were so different in my company, honestly. My staff attrition had reduced. The employees were so much more empowered, they were committed, and they were taking initiative. It was actually very beautiful. And our revenues, most importantly, doubled. And another 2 years later, our revenues had actually trebled. I also had so much more time and money to invest on leadership development programs. In fact, I was traveling so much that I used to irritate my clients who were always looking for me. In fact, everyone was always looking for me. Oh, you've traveled again. You've traveled again. Yeah. And I loved it. Most importantly, I became a much better, a happier, more secure, and fulfilled leader. And within 7 years of starting my company, a South African company brought into it. I've now fully exited now. So that's what happened, just because I introduced a culture of continuous learning and development. So we'll take a quick commercial break and we'll come back and I will tell you what I learned in that journey. See you soon.
I am winning on all fronts limitlessly.
I have made tremendous improvement at work through delegating and empowering teams.
We started with the law of intentionality, which specifically makes it clear that growth cannot just happen. You have to be intentional about your growth.
CTO Africa Leadership brings you the Grow Journey, a series of masterclasses based on John C. Maxwell's book, The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. In this 10-week virtual growth accelerator, you will acquire the skills to thrive and flourish as you evolve into a more impactful and fulfilled individual. You will master the art of personal and professional development as you craft and execute your customized growth plan. Limited seats available. Register now for the next cohort.
Hey there, join the next cohort of CTL Ghana's growth journey.
The next cohort is coming on. Get involved and your life will never be the same.
Okay, welcome back. So, reflecting on the journey that I just described and realizing how much I had grown, now I was a much better and more fulfilled leader. I realized a few things, and I'll share 4 of them with you. That to grow the company, you've got to grow the leader. So whether you're a leader of a team in a big corporate, the CEO of a big corporate, or you are the founder of a business, in order to grow your company, you've got to grow the leader. That's number 1. And then when you've grown, and as the leader grows as well, the people grow. You've got to be very intentional as a leader to grow your people, creating learning opportunities for them. And it's really about being growth focused as well as goal focused, because a lot of us leaders are hopping from goal to goal to goal to goal to goal to goal. There's a place to get to. So just focusing on the goals, which is what I was doing. But once I started growing, I realized that as well as it being important to focus on your goals, it's also important to focus on your growth. And so I really believe in having your goals in front of you and growing into your goals. And John Maxwell says, be growth focused, not goal focused. But I'm not sure I 100% agree. I think we should actually have our goals in front of us and grow into our goals. This was a really big one for me, was embracing humility. Because without that humility, you can't show up as a truly authentic leader. A lot of us, or well, let me say, my perception at the time was that I had to be completely guarded and I had to be perfect and I had to show that I had everything in control and nobody could see any weaknesses around me. And what I realized was that actually showing up as my authentic self, embracing humility and letting my staff see that I'm also learning and I don't know everything, actually made me more human and allows them to connect with me, allowed them to connect better with me. So acknowledging my mistakes, so even in the team meetings, I would also acknowledge my mistakes and share the lessons and the learnings with my staff as well. And it takes a lot of humility to do that, to show people that you're not perfect. And one of my favorite mantras still is that there are no mistakes, there are only learnings. And another one, which we also used to use in my company, was, I always used to say this, in life, we either get the blessing or we get the lesson we need to learn. It's simple. We get the blessing or the lesson. And we intentionally changed the language in my company. So rather than my staff saying that, oh, madam, I made a mistake, when they approach me, so rather than say, oh, madam, I made a mistake, it's like, now we change that to, madam, I have a lesson to share. So I'd always correct them. I said, you didn't make a mistake. You have a lesson to share. Now let's hear it. It's also so important to know the dreams and the goals of the people you lead and how you can support them in achieving their goals and dreams through their work. Because everybody is thinking about themselves. And so when your staff can see how their future aligns with what they're doing today, they'll be so much more committed. And so be intentional about co-visioning with your staff. And when they see that you care about the future, you care about their dreams, then they'll also care about you and be so much more committed. And lastly, show your people that you believe in them and show them that you want things for them. You want bigger and better things for them. You want more for them than even they think they are capable of. Because a lot of people may sometimes only see a little, something small for themselves. And I'm not saying that's wrong, right? We've all got a different path and a different direction. As I say, we're all dancing to the beat of our own drum. As some people have so much more potential, but because of fear of failure, or fear of being laughed at, they don't try. And so showing our employees or your employees that you believe in them, you want more for them than they can even think they're capable of, do you know what happens? They soon step into that identity. And I realize that most of us just need to stand on the belief that others have of us before we even develop our own. What this is that it's not all roses. There's some people that are just not going to get it at all. And so you've got to let those people go. People have really got to want it. And this way, it's always separating the weeds from the chaff, it's separating the wheat from the tares, as it says in the Bible. Because if you don't do that, then that's also creating a toxic company culture. And more people get it than don't, because everybody wants to live. Who doesn't wants to live a more successful, happier life? And if you can show them that it's possible through learning and developing and growing and evolving, then they'll buy into it. So I hope you found that aspect useful. And I'll share with you, and it's actually here on the screen, why it's important to have that continuous learning culture. You have employee engagement because your staff will be so much more committed. You see, a lot of companies lose money for the negative and dysfunctional energy that people bring to the office. And so by having increased employee engagement, the company is going to thrive. You're going to have better innovation. Unless you're really working tech firms, I don't believe in having an innovation department. And every single task and every single person has got to be innovative. And it's when you're constantly asking, what went well? What could have done better? Your brain starts looking for ways to constantly improve things. And of course, you get better performance, your revenues go up, which they did with mine. And within the whole organization, there's this energy and this strive to improve, for improvement. Okay, and then there's a, I don't know what you call these, a donut. I think that's what they're called these days. So what I shared my story with you, I shared with you how I intuitively and I instinctively did all of this, okay? So I didn't have a framework. When I was preparing for this webinar, I actually found this framework. I said, gosh, this really aligns with what it is that I did. So first of all, the upskilling bit refers to creating opportunities for personal and professional development. So being very, very clear what their vision is, what the employee's vision is, because you know what, the learning and development opportunities for them to have the buy-in, your staff, it's got to align with their vision, okay? And so with upskilling, you're creating that space for them to professionally and personally develop. Okay, so understanding the dreams, where's the gap? How do we close the gap? And then fail safely here. First, to the fact that, remember I said earlier that it's like there are no mistakes, there are only lessons. And creating that safety where people are not going to be issued with a query letter. I mean, unless, of course, it's something really, like fraud. Of course, I'm not suggesting that, but I was a fan of every single thing. Yes, please explain why disciplinary actions should not be taken against you. So making sure that there's that safety so that when employees make a mistake, you're there to catch them. And at least they learn from it. Because if you didn't evaluate those experiences either, then those mistakes would have been lost. And point 3 here is about sharing. We're sharing in our team meetings, sharing daily. What did we learn from our mistakes? And having that culture of openness really helps and bonds people. And also it makes, and all the insights that you're learning, when someone else is sharing what they learned from a failure, it also allows other people to learn from that too. In my story earlier, I didn't talk about taking a pause. And what I'd like to share is that every month I take half a day to reflect on the past month. And I've got a set of thinking questions that actually help expand me and learn from the previous month. And every quarter, I take 2 days out. One of them, I'm in a program called Strategic Coach. So that's just thinking about our business and what's worked. And then another day to reflect on everything that I did in Strategic Coach and in the last quarter. And it's amazing the insights that you generate just to pause and reflect. So as leaders, creating that continuous growth, what we call continuous learning and development, also involves just pausing and reflecting. Collaboration, that's really key. And I've spoken about earlier, collaborating, sharing our insights with each other, collaborating on joint projects. So not one person, for example, if there's a particular project to do, you don't just give it to one person, you get them to work together as a team on particular projects. That really helps as well with innovation and learning. And constantly seeking new ways to improve. Again, what did I do well? What could I have done better? Those kinds of questions really help you to think about how you can improve what it is that you're doing. So this is a very nice little donut that explains in a structure what I shared in my story. So what do you need for a learning culture? First of all, you need leadership commitment, because if the leader doesn't buy into it, it's never going to happen, right? Because I've been in trainings where I've been the trainer and staff have been sent on training and their bosses are calling them during the training and they don't have any time to focus on the training because their boss is always calling them because, you know what, the boss hasn't bought into it. So you need leadership commitment. And of course, the employees need to be engaged. How do you get them engaged in this? It's when they understand how it's going to impact their future success, then they probably get it. And when they also know that it's aligned with the overall vision and the dream that they have for their life, then they'll buy into it. And of course, you need money. Everything is about ching, ching, ching. You need money to attend personal development retreats. You need money to attend coaching sessions. You need money to buy books. So we've got to have access to resources. And these days, people are so blessed. There's everything on YouTube. YouTube is a worldwide university. So there's no reason for anyone to be ignorant. Even access to resources like this that Sam is providing as well on his leadership platform. Brilliant. And like with everything, I always say evaluation and feedback. Is this working? Is this path that I'm on working? You've got to evaluate on the things that you're learning because you could be learning things and not improving. So it's to evaluate the learning. One of the things that I truly believe in building a learning culture is making sure that it's a daily thing. So that's how come I introduced the evening journaling, the evening reflection, and changing the language that we use in the organization so that it becomes a thing that is happening every single day rather than an event of training once a quarter or going to some leadership program once a year, because that doesn't actually produce true learning. We forget 90% of what we've learned within a week. 90% is gone, 70% within 24 hours, 90% within a week. So come on. That's why going to one-day leadership programs doesn't work. You need that constant reminder, constant repetition. So it's got to be daily. You've also got to be able to provide your staff with diverse learning opportunities, not just one way. There've got to be many different ways because everybody has a different learning model. And so we need different ways of learning and training, etc. And so important, collaborating and knowledge sharing is key. So making sure that it's a daily thing, it's a daily routines, allowing for diverse learning opportunities and collaborating and knowledge sharing. And here we've got the measuring learning and development. So basically, again, for this one, collaborating, knowledge sharing, that's actually a mistake, forgive me. It's actually about performance improvement. And so in assessing my staff every 6 months on how they were doing, how much they're performing, how better they're performing, you can see the effects of the learning and development on the work. I've got people, when I've had people working with me, you can just see the dramatic difference that a year of continuous learning and development can make. I mentioned earlier that it's not all a bed of roses, and it's not. Particularly in corporates, larger corporates, there's a lot of internal competition. People are vying for the same positions, and you often have challenges and blockages in creating cultures of continuous development because everybody wants to keep everything to themselves. And then there's also the lack of resources, right? Because if companies will say they do not have the budget, or you might think you do not have the budget, but here's what I'm here to tell you. If you are a founder of your own business, you lead a department, you're a CEO of a corporate, you cannot afford not to train. You cannot afford not to. You cannot afford not to develop. I hate using the word training because it's like seems like an event. You cannot afford not to. So there's no excuse for a lack of resources because there's resources all around us, especially in this day and age. And that's one of the challenges though. And oftentimes people will say, well, oh no, my company hasn't given me the budget, so I can't do it. Well, do it for yourself. The one that I find is the most difficult is to keep momentum, because trust me, in every meeting one day your staff meeting is like, okay, what went well for you last week? How did you feel? Just going through all of that sometimes can just get so monotonous sometimes. And you actually ask yourself, why are we doing this? And then sometimes as well, actually, this is the most common one, is even maintaining the momentum. Blocking out Fridays for learning Fridays every single week was a challenge. And we had to be so intentional to make sure it happened. And as I mentioned earlier, I sold my company to a South African firm. I'm pretty much working alone as a consultant. I do have 2 people working with me. And we tried to institute this Learning Friday in this 2.0 version of my life where I am now. And it hasn't particularly worked because one of my employees cannot work on Fridays, okay? And I cannot dedicate any other day but Fridays because my Monday to Fridays are really tough. And Fridays are the only days where I may not have board meetings or presentations. So we haven't been doing it ourselves. So as I was preparing for this, I told one of my staff, you see, we haven't been doing this thing that I was preaching. So we're going to have a way to get back to it. And even if it's just she and I, because that's okay, we will do it. And we will grow and develop together. Well, as I bring this to an end, I'll be so curious to find out what challenges that you have faced in promoting continuous learning, either in your organization, if you work in a big corporate, or in your business, what challenges are and how you have overcome them. I'd be very curious because I have such an open heart and I'm constantly, or shall I say open mind? I do have an open heart as well, and open mind. And I'm always looking to learn from other people on how they have promoted learning and development in their organization. I'm looking forward to hearing your questions in the Q&A. And I would just like to find out from you, what is one thing that you've learned today that you are going to apply, or shall I say, I hope you've learned many things. What is one thing you'll take away and apply in your business? My name is Catherine Engmann, and it's been a delight to serve you this evening. Thank you.
That was amazing, Catherine. I mean, I was just, usually I'll be taking notes, but this time I didn't take any notes. I was just engrossed. I was
Really?
just absorbing. And the story of your own story and how you brought learning, culture into your organization. It's so practical, it's so amazing, it's so natural, it's so this is really brilliant as far as I'm concerned, and I'm sure Joy is on the line. We are going to start to steal a few of your ideas. We're doing a few of
Oh,
them already.
thank you.
We're going to start. We're doing learning on Thursdays. Okay, we're going to
Oh,
add the masterminds to it, and
yes, yes.
we are going to be able to have instituted. Uh, I say every month I will have one-on-one kind of coaching with the
Mm.
teams. I've left it for them to subscribe. Nobody has
I
has
know,
yet
right? They will not.
taken advantage yet. So the challenges are there, and the idea
So
of you
you
know
have to get them Coach Kobe. I think an external coach helps. They don't want to be coached by you. Trust me. We tried that.
okay, then the idea of having the personal goals
Yeah.
and aligning that with the institutional goals,
Mm.
I think is fantastic. I
Oh,
learned this also from Mind Valley Academy,
okay.
where each of the staff will come and write all the learning point. What do you want to experience? How do you want to grow? What contribution you want to go? And they will write on the wall. And then every new employee will write. You have everything, and then they will see how it fits. Now, these are great ideas you have shared with us, and I think people are learning. At this moment, just hold. Let me go to see what people are saying at the moment, and if there are any questions, guys, you have Catherine here. What are you learning? Share your takeaways, share your questions, share your experiences. She's asked about the challenges you're having. What is it that you want to know? She's here full for you. She's a gold mine. Don't leave her to go. I tell you, Catherine is gold
Oh,
mine.
Sam.
Uh,
We're on this journey
so
together, Sam. We're
I
on this
know, I
journey.
know, I know, I know, I know. It's been
Yeah.
wonderful, actually. Okay, so I have a few comments coming through. Awo Fiajo says, great strategy, end of day reflection exercise. It is very, very true. And Abigail Techi,
Say hi
end
to
of,
Awu. Awu, hi. Hi, hi,
oh,
Awu.
yes, I will. Yeah.
Yes.
How are you, Awo? Abigail Tachi is here. It says end of day
Mm.
reflection exercise. That seems to be catching on. I will say thank you, Catherine. Abigail again says a culture of continuous learning and development. Sarah says, I love that. Grow into your goals. Yes, actually, that was also another
Oh.
thing. It was great. I picked that. Now, Isaac Ayuku says, oh, I have really learned a lot in class today. One,
Oh.
get the blessing or learning. That was powerful, actually. That was powerful. I have to intentionally actually practice that, because
Mm.
it's always what went wrong, and what can we do. But
Mm.
getting the blessing of the learning and learn the lessons is very important. Two, he says humility is very important factor in the learning process. And three, growing yourself with a goal in mind. Asante Sana, and Isaac is joining us from Tanzania.
Oh,
So
hello.
say Asante Sana, Mama, for such a wonderful presentation. And
Oh,
Sarah Sejesi says, brilliant and hands-on, so practical. Absolutely.
mm.
Joy says, I can see growth oozing even in the delivery of the presentation. Yeah,
Oh, joy, you made my day.
absolutely. I will again say a very captivating session. Kudos, Catherine. Sarah, the psychological safety, humility, and generosity of your heart.
Mm,
Absolutely. You gave everything. You didn't hold back on anything. Even the downside, the weaknesses. It takes maturity to be able to share, you know, your
mm.
faults openly like this. Rosie, hey, say thank you so much. And Sarah ends with, a growth is a journey and it
Yeah.
took 18 months. What are some of the advice to navigate the whole 18 months? Okay, that's what she's tried to give us. All right, thank you
Oh,
so much,
that,
Catherine.
yes,
Yeah, so
yes.
you want to share a few advice as there was no more questions. Sarah wants to know what are some of the key advice to navigate the whole of 18 months?
Prayer. Because you know
Uh-huh.
what, Jesse, the thing is that, as you said, growth doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't.
Yes.
And it's patience and prayer. That's all I can tell you. You know, there were days that I would just get so frustrated. Like, why am I doing this? I should just stop. It's not happening. But I'm so glad I didn't stop because a lot of people would have given up. And yes, all I'll say is just patience. It will happen. It will happen. And you'll start reaping the benefits. So yeah.
Yeah. Let me also bring Joy because I know
Oh yes. Great
she's
joy.
taking a lot of notes. Now, the
Hello,
thing before
joy.
Joy comes in, what I wanted to check with you, you know, generally as a people, we have a culture through our educational system where even the lecturers just tell us what to write, even in our exams. So over time, it's become extremely difficult for us to take learning for learning's sake seriously. So how did
I'm
you
nodding my head
respond
like
to
this.
this? In your, because if you're not learning for exams, why is all these things? We should write. And when you want to training, the first thing they're asking, will I have a certificate? So it's not
No.
learning for
Some
learning's sake.
exactly.
So what are your thoughts? I mean, maybe there'll be people on the
Okay.
call who are also having these challenges, and yeah.
Okay. So you know what, Sam? What I did was with a lot of people, maybe this I would get them to look at their lives if they hadn't grown or changed, and whether in 30 years they want to be living the same life. That was how I started it. And it sounds a
Mm-hmm,
bit cruel, but I actually
mm-hmm,
get you to look ahead and see, okay, what would your life be like if you carry on this way? And when people see that nothing is really going to change in their lives, and, oh, well, maybe I'll go and get a government contract, then I say, what if you don't? What if? And once people see that, and they realize that, okay, then learning is important. And a lot of people may not get it. Some people don't get it. I think a lot of people can see it when you can show them where it will get them.
mm-hmm,
And then
mm-hmm.
in those moments, that's why I think the coaching style of leadership really helps. Because when I first started and I started asking them, okay, so what answer do you have? What could you do differently? Madam, I don't know. Like, really? You don't really know? What's on TikTok today? They probably know that. So there was that barrier. It's like, oh, I don't know. And they're just standing there with mouths open. But over time, it actually worked because then people knew not to come to me until they had a solution. It's like, oh, we know, madam, it's not, don't come with problems, come with the solution as well. That was it. So
Yeah.
step by step. And I think just to summarize, as we say this, even though we are fed by rote, think aligning people and expanding their minds to allow them to see even more infinite possibilities really, really help.
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah,
think I will invest in myself because I can probably see my potential. A lot of people
yeah,
do not see their potential.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Good. So, Maya
Sam,
says thank you, Catherine. Yes.
I want to ask, how would you handle that? I want to ask you.
Um, I will ask Joy to do it.
Oh,
Yeah,
I love it.
because it's. I mean, we try to encourage people. We try to, like you said, it's a matter of letting people see
Yeah.
how this is going to help them.
Mm,
It's a selfish mentality. So I
yeah.
think the idea of working out the people having their goals and seeing how this learning would actually benefit their goals. And I tell people, my people in CTL leadership, I say, look, this is a small shop. Everything you're doing here, if you're able to get it right, is the same thing that they are doing in all the big organizations. If you go to MTN, if you are handling admin here, if you do it so well, the next time they're advertising for something in MTN, it's the same thing. All the graphics you're doing, the social media you're doing, if you're learning it, I mean, it's the same thing. So don't see this small shop and say, oh, this, but let's do it well and let's learn and let's do it better so that you can grow. Well, Joy,
Yeah.
I know you have some
Really?
ideas.
I do. I was like Sam was enjoying listening to you at the beginning when you started to share your story about how at that point you said I needed to change, and we're reading this month. We're reading "Who Moved My Cheese," which is a
Oh,
book on,
okay. Yes.
and there's a quote that just instinctively, as you were saying, just came to me about if you don't change, you will go extinct. So even
Ooh.
from that point, let me give you a moment though. Yeah,
Wow.
change, you will go extinct. I mean, this was such a powerful, statement that was in the book. And, from that time, you had a team you were working with. You had to change to ensure that you meet their needs to be able to grow the business. Now you're at a point where you have a much smaller team and you have to change to be able to meet the needs of that small team. And so it takes a lot of capacity. You mentioned expanding after you took a few coaching sessions, you felt expanded because if you can expand to make certain decisions as a leader, and actually, my question is actually right here. You have your people, stifled. They'll talk about you, they wish for something different, but as the leader doesn't know, then they have no idea what to do. So I would just ask maybe this quick question around what would you tell an employee, somebody who feels, okay, I'm not in a leadership position, but I feel the organization is not a learning, environment. There's no learning culture. What can I do? Because you need to be empowered to know that, okay, I can actually do this. I could actually take a course, but from the employee's point of view, we've spoken to the leaders. What can they do, to be empowered to actually turn the organization around? If the leader is not seeing it or the leader is not on this call, yeah.
And that's a great question, Joy. And after I've answered, I'd like Sam and you to add your insights because this is a mastermind. I actually have a young lady who works somewhere for a very big organization, and the leader is not brought into this. But what she started doing was within her own little circle, so she's an executive assistant. With all the other executive assistants, she actually started saying, I want to do a book club like you used to do, madam. So she organized one with their team. And apparently, it's created a little bit of momentum in the company because then other people have wanted to join it. And although her boss still sniffs at her like, this thing that you're doing, she's noticing little changes in her. So hopefully, it will work. So that's the only bit of advice that I can give is to say that yes, your leader might not be invested in it, but you've got to do it for yourself. Because if you don't, you will never move from where you are. And I do believe that you'd be definitely be happier. So own it for yourself.
Yeah.
And although the company's not paying, whatever you learn for yourself cannot be taken away. And we shouldn't rely on companies to pay for us. That's the one thing that really annoys me when people always rely on, oh, my company, my company. I'm like, yeah, so what?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
what's your
see.
take?
I see. Sarah says to Joy's question, what this brings to mind is the book. Is the book of Last Man, a leader without a title, who also provide good pointers. And last month, with the book we read last month was The Leader Without a Title. Actually, a good book for people to be able to embrace. And the other book that people can read is John Maxwell's 360-degree leadership,
Yeah.
where you will be able to lead your boss, your
Yeah.
peers, and your people under you.
Yeah.
That is also a mindset.
Yes,
And
it
it
is.
takes what you said earlier, taking responsibility for your own growth. Because if you don't, then we are not going to be able to make any impact. So first, grow yourself. Once you're growing yourself, and that's the point you made, change yourself. And we have to change. Leaders are people who like to tell people to change, but they are the last to change. The last to change. So we have to learn our lesson. Maya is here, and Maya is saying that thank you, Catherine, for the insightful presentation. And Maya is joining from Malawi, I guess. Maya says learning from
Oh, Maya.
yes,
Maya from BCA Maya.
Yeah.
yes, Learning Friday is my new TGIF now. Thanks, my key takeaway, right? And Sarah says, seek excellence in your own small way. All right, good. Joy, I don't know if you have something else.
I mean, Catherine, I think you gave us some steps because sometimes people ask the question, where do I start from? Because the question you said was, how do I grow? It's a question that I've asked myself. And I remember when Sam was doing the presentation on personal growth, he said exactly what you did. Like first you were blessed to have a coach insights, at least to have a complimentary session to even begin to expand your ideas on how do I grow, what's my vision. Then you started reading books. Books are, that's the barest minimum you can do. And I'm totally loving my reading culture now. I mean, CTL, since I joined CTL, of course, you have to read a book a month. So yeah, it's changed a lot. So read a book. If you're struggling to read a book, please find a buddy, somebody to be accountable with. Join us to read, and you'll be able to read. Then you took mastermind sessions with your teams, because the knowledge is in the room. And then you also, focus on your values, the support systems. And so it like you started from one point and I could see the steps. So I think that just to summarize, for anybody who is looking to, start the whole journey. And then CTL is also here to support. Catherine is here to support you. So please just give us a shout out in our, emails, phone numbers, WhatsApp, and then we'll be able to guide you. Yeah, that's me. Thank you so
Thank
much.
Bless
you.
you, Joy. Bless
That,
you.
that was a great summary. And so we're going to just leave the stage for Catherine, and we'll come back.
Me?
Give us
Really?
a last word. You're going to give us your party.
Oh,
You have to give us the icing on the cake.
oh, Joy, no, don't leave me alone.
So just for 30 seconds.
Okay. Well, the last session, when just now in the last segment, where Joy reminded me of a quote in Who Moved the Cheese: if you don't change, you will grow extinct. And it's my belief that by building a culture of continuous learning and development, it helps you as the leader, as well as the people, And by doing that, your business will not go extinct. And more importantly, neither will you. Thank you all for watching.
Thank you very, very much.
Catherine.
Thank you so very much, Catherine. All right, people, thank you so much. 2 quick things or 3. Number 1, we're talking about continuous learning. The Growth Journey program, our 10-week Growth Journey program, would give you hands-on and hold your hand on how to grow. Within the 10 weeks, you would be able to take responsibility for your growth. We are registering for the next session, so please get on board. Number 2, Joy has hinted, the book we are reading this month is Who Moved My Cheese? Maybe if it was a Ghanaian, it would be Who Moved My Fufu or something like that. So Who Moved My Cheese is a small book. Actually, those of you who read well can read it in a day.
Yes.
But it's so powerful. So we still have how many days? Today is 15, 16, 20 something. So we still have 10 days.
Yeah.
You get this book and just read it, because at the end of the month, on the 27th, we will gather here and we'll pick out the lessons that Who Moved My Cheese has for us. Then the final thing is Live to Lead. Live to Lead, 4th October is coming on, like they say, butu, butu, butu. Please begin to mobilize, begin to save for Live to Lead. This is an experience you would not want to miss. And the last week we've been going around and talking to people, and we met some of the people who were in Live to Lead, and they tell us, I mean, it was my first time in Live to Lead, and I was really energized. I mean, Live to Lead is powerful. These are words we got from people who have participated in Live to Lead, and we don't want you to miss it. Get your company, if you want us to come and talk to your HR, your bosses, so that they can bring more people to Live to Lead, that would be very good. So we are available for those who are. So on that note, I pass to Joy to, if there's something else that I missed, so that we can, I am out of here till next week.
Yes. Thank you so much. So I just want to add, before we leave, this year we hit our YouTube subscribers went up this month. We've gone up by about 40 new subscribers, and we want to thank you all for doing that. So if you haven't yet subscribed to our YouTube channel, please hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell, so that when we go live, you get the prompt. Okay, so that's all I wanted to add. We're so grateful for always joining us on this learning experience. We hope to see you next week as we review Who Moved My Cheese. Yes. Okay. All right. So have a good night, everyone, and see you next week. Bye-bye.
All right.
There's something in human nature that compels us to reach the next level. Whether you're working from a corner office or a kitchen table, leading a congregation or a classroom, measuring results in percentages or personal progress, we are all fueled by a desire to do better for ourselves and those around us. We've created an event to be the spark that ignites that desire into action. Live to Lead is a global event bringing people together from more than 30 countries around the world. You'll be challenged, encouraged, and inspired as you meet other men and women like you who are learning how to live their lives to lead others. Hear from some of the greatest leaders and influencers in the world. This year, for the first time ever, your host site will choose the content that will best serve you and your region and meet the values of your community. You will hear from a select combination of these simulcast speakers. John C. Maxwell is a #1 New York Times bestselling author and Horatio Alger Award winner. He was identified as the #1 leader in business by the AMA and the world's most influential leadership expert by Inc. magazine in 2014. 4-time Olympian Shantae Lowe is a world record-holding high jumper and gold medalist who has inspired millions with her story on platforms like ESPN and the O Network. Michael Jr. brings laughter and encouragement to audiences all over the world as he inspires audiences to discover and activate their purpose. His unique blend of comedy and motivation has earned him features on stages from TEDx to The Tonight Show. John Gordon has written 15 bestsellers, including The Energy Bus, The Power of Positive Leadership, and The Carpenter, which was one of 2014's top 5 business books of the year. His clients include Dell, Publix, Southwest Airlines, and several NFL, NBA, and MLB coaches and championship teams. Additional speakers may be international speaker and author Valerie Burton, Chris Robinson, who leads a team of more than 50,000 speakers, trainers, and coaches worldwide, Malcolm Gladwell, who has been called one of the 100 most influential people in the world by Time magazine, or serial entrepreneur and business expert Brandon Dawson. For the past 11 years, host sites around the globe have been hosting Live to Lead events in communities near you. Whether you run an organization with hundreds of employees like a hospital, bank, or school system, or you are a small business, church, or solo entrepreneur, your local host site is here to serve you and your teams. You can find the Live to Lead location and date in your area by going to livetolead.com and clicking Find a Local Site. This is your chance to grow you, to grow your leaders, and connect with other leaders in your community with a growth mindset. You never know who you will meet or how this day will impact your future. The only regret you will have is not being in the room. Live to Lead. Where in the world will you attend?